The Australian federal government declared that 650 migrants would be coming to the country. A storm is developing beneath the sunshine that used to characterise Australia. Cities, which were formerly strongholds of security, are collapsing. An unprecedented wave of immigration is putting a strain on resources, raising crime rates to previously unheard of levels, and making many Australians feel like outsiders in their own country. The issue is calling for solutions, from overloaded hospitals to rent that is increasing. Are the people living there turning the Australian dream into a nightmare? We'll discuss how illegal immigration has influenced Australian cities in today's video. Continue reading to learn about the unique advantages Kenora provides to migrants, especially during difficult circumstances. Recall the old Melbourne, landsides cafes, laid-back vibes, and friendly smiles. However, the government's disastrous strategy of accepting migrants has made Australians in the area cry. The friends down at the pub are asking, what happened, as the city seems to be overwhelmed. Check these figures. In 2023, crime increased by 88.3%. It's a terrifying leap. In addition, living expenses are soaring. The 2.2 increase in rent doesn't tell the whole story though. Due to a significant population increase, finding an inexpensive apartment is becoming nearly impossible. Similar to a Ponzi scam involving immigration, ordinary Australians are being duped. The difference between the number of individuals entering and departing, or net migration, reached a record 454,400 last year. That is twice as many as normal. Consider this. That would be the equivalent to the annual addition of a brand new city the size of Gold Coast. What will become of all these people? Indeed, they are vying for the same flats as you, which is raising the rent. Everything else is strained by this population growth as well. Increased competition for jobs due to a larger population drives down salaries. More strain will also be placed on resources like electricity, whose price increased by 4.2% in the previous quarter. Worst of all, how can we support even more without aiding those who are most in need when 800,000 Victorians are already living in poverty? Number 5. Sydney. Once the epitome of perfection, the city is currently dealing with an intensifying refugee problem. Uncontrolled gang violence, these territorial fights are spreading beyond dimly lit streets and into public parks and even well-known tourist attractions, wreaking havoc and spreading terror. Unchecked immigration has allowed a lot of people from cultures where gang violence is the norm to enter. Conflicts brought by these newcomers overburden law enforcement and foster an environment conducive to gang recruitment. Rapid cultural change has strained society's fabric to the breaking point, leaving weaker communities open to abuse by criminal groups. There is no denying the financial cost. With resources being directed to combat gang violence, inflation, which is already hard on budgets, climbs at 9%. Companies that are affected by crime tend to leave behind boarded up shops and a barren landscape. This dread causes the once vibrant tourism business in the city to wither. The data presents a dismal image. The New South Wales Police claim that there has been a 40% increase in gang violence in the last 12 months. Hospitals record a 25% increase in injuries linked to gangs. There is a startling correlation between high immigrant populations and higher gang activity, according to a university study. More than just an eyesore, those picture-perfect tents scattered through Sydney Harbour, making a striking contrast to the Opera House behind them. They frequently have ties to gang activity, which makes the area hazardous and turns away tourists. This isn't the Sydney that we know, a thriving city where safety and opportunity coexist. Do law enforcement organisations sleep? Is this what you get for hiring foreign labour, students, or migrants? Number 4. Brisbane. The golden child of the Sunshine State is experiencing growing pains as a result of a migratory boom. An influx of newcomers is straining the city's once lax appeal. The figures are self-explanatory. In just 10 years, Brisbane's population has grown by 20%, with a large immigrant population. The previously crowded public transit system is now overflowing as a result of a 35% increase in ridership. Once within reach for many, affordable housing is now a far-off dream. Locals are being forced out of the market by the startling 40% increase in rent in certain suburbs. This sudden flood is affecting more than just rent checks and commutes. It's affecting public safety as well. According to police statistics, property crime has increased by 25%, including car thefts and break-ins. Even more concerning is the emergence of gang activity, which was formerly uncommon, especially in places with large immigrant populations. The difficulty is in swiftly and successfully integrating these newcomers to avoid cultural conflicts and an increase in criminal behaviour. However, the stress is not limited to the streets. Brisbane's healthcare system is collapsing due to an increased population despite its existing strain. There's a big demand rise for hospitals. According to statistics, the average wait time at the emergency room has increased by 30%. Insufficient resources are making it difficult for nurses and doctors to treat everyone who needs treatment. Brisbane's intellectual centres, the universities, are experiencing a similar issue. Class sizes are skyrocketing, and enrolment in some courses has increased by 50%. Professors are finding it difficult to provide each student individualised attention due to a lack of resources. One of Brisbane's main assets, its educational system, could deteriorate. Not only does this affect public services, but it also affects the residents. Many Brisbaneites are having difficulty obtaining work due to a crowded job market. Number 3. Perth. Once a relaxed sanctuary, a city where friendship and grilling were the norm, it is now under siege. Violent attacks have increased by an astounding 40% in the last several years, while crime rates are skyrocketing. Do you recall those warm evenings spent meandering down Hay Street? Shop windows are now boarded up, a permanent reminder of the city's problems with broken glass and small-time thieves. But concerns are not limited to criminality. Any young family in Perth would look at you with despair if you ask them about the housing market. Owning a home feels like a cruel joke to Australians. There is no longer any affordable housing, and in several suburbs, rents have increased by 50%. With an average wage in Perth, who could afford that? Not young couples wanting to start their life here, and definitely not tradespeople. Tent cities are the astute answer proposed by the City Council. Yes, tents in the midst of Perth. You heard that correctly. There are 10,000 homeless people. Is this a nightmare from the gloomy future? Not only is the impact social, but it's also economic. The backbone of Perth's economy, small enterprises, are facing hardship. Consumers are staying away because they're afraid to go out after dark. Who is to blame for them? There is a decline in investment. Who would want to put money into a failing city? Perth wants this to be the future, a city in decline that no longer resembles the thriving capital of the world, but rather a third world nation. Number 2. Adelaide. The church city, renowned for its laid-back charm and amiable demeanour, is under danger. In the wake of the US pullout from Afghanistan and the situation in Ukraine, around 100,000 migrants have descended upon the city. Adelaide is struggling because of the sudden inflow. Its social fabric is stressed and its infrastructure is overburdened. Recall the charming Christmas carols in Victoria Square from the previous year. Imagine trying to find your way through a sea of tents to get to the stores. With property costs surging, the idea of enjoying a backyard barbecue with friends seems like a thing of the past, widespread due to the surge in crime rates. When was a locked automobile door sufficient security? Do you recall? Residents are now afraid to leave anything unattended. Where is Anthony Albanese's Labor government's leadership at the moment? Is packing 100,000 more residents into an underdeveloped city a sign of good leadership? Will Australia end up like Sweden, crumbling under the pressure of unrestricted immigration? Does Adelaide deserve this kind of future? These are questions that the so-called politicians won't know the answers to. Number 1. Canberra. Previously renowned for its calm streets and feeling of security, the area is currently dealing with an unprecedented rise in crime. In the last 2 years, there have been a startling 60% increase in violent assaults. Once unheard of, carjackings are now a terrifying reality. There has been an increase in home invasions, which has destroyed Canberra's previously held sense of security. These are more than simply numbers. They stand for broken lives and an increasing level of fear in the communities. But concerns are not limited to criminality. A troubling trend is forming, despite the fact that many Australians struggle to make ends meet. With government money, newcomers receive a plethora of perks, including free housing, healthcare, and language training. Already a tight market, the housing market is about to blow up. Some suburbs have seen a startling 35% increase in rent. Once within reach for many Canberrans, affordable housing is now an unattainable goal. The cost of living is driving away young families and working professionals, forcing them to dwell in small spaces or relocate more and farther from the city core. This is a surefire path to homelessness and poverty, not simply a minor annoyance. An alarming rise in the number of people using soup kitchens serves as a constant reminder of the growing number of Canberrans who are struggling to put food on the table. As competition heats up, job options that were once numerous are becoming increasingly limited. But when idiots take over the reign of power, what is to be expected? Is Australia still considered a first world nation? What do you think? What actions do you believe the crisis warrants? Click here and hit the like button to discover how Swiss cities are being impacted by the migrant issue.